Pop quiz. Who is Dragon Ball's most influential villain? I can imagine a lot of you would have said that it would be Freeza. He has been the thorn in the side of our heroes many times, being able to cheat death 3 times. How can this be? And yes, we do count his post-Namek survival, and having the distinction of still being someone that has evolved in his villainous ways, rather than redeeming and still being alive. Some people may say maybe King Piccolo. There is a good argument for that, as he kinda started a new era within Dragon Ball storytelling, a prototype for Z, changing the dynamic between the young monkey boy and his future enemies forever. We might even mention from Dragon Ball Super, Zamasu, technically the villain that wasn't defeated by the Dragon Team and required divine intervention of the highest order to stop him. And even then, an insanely high price had been paid in episode 67. But don't worry, I hear you perfect cell stands. After all, he was meant to be the ultimate hybrid of everything that came before him, a really good ending boss if it had to. And as we stated multiple times, he ushered in the era of the biggest power creeps in the entire history of the series. Nevertheless, what limits Cell is him being a creation of a brilliant mind, one Dr. Gero, whose inventions unintentionally saved the multiverse. And despite his overall importance for the plot, his screen time was really limited, and we really started to learn about him in supplementary materials after he already met his fate. But there is another villain, who is in a similar situation to the Good Doctor. While we wouldn't really call him the most influential, in every other series he would be a perfect candidate for a big bad. And yet, in typical Toriyama subversion, he became a butt of one of the most twisted jokes that the author prepared for a character. Of course, it's Dabura. In one of our recent discussions, we alluded just how much of a big deal for the entire history of the Dragon World the loss of the Tertian Oculus had been. But this isn't the only cruel twist of fate that has happened to the King of the Demons. Oh no. But first, let us refer to the guidebooks for some good old-fashioned lore regarding Dabura, and let's see what has changed. The following character notes come from Daizenshu 7, the final one, and translation credit goes to, as always, Herms. Dabura, King of the Demon Realm. History. Though his exact age is unknown, he has lived for over 300 years. His first appearance was in Chapter 446, Special Characteristics, the man who boasts the greatest power in the Demon Realm, a place said to exist on the opposite side of the universe which Goku and Co. inhabit. He had his heart manipulated by Babidi and became his underling. On top of having battle power equal to Cell's, he is also skilled in magic. After dying, Enma judged that as the king of the Dark Demon Realm, he would be happy in hell, and so he sent him to heaven. Techniques: petrification, various forms of magic. Battles: a fairly even battle unfolded between him and Super Saiyan 2 Gohan. Afterwards, he sensed that the revived Majin Buu was dangerous and tried to defeat him, but was turned into a cookie and then eaten. Despite being the strongest in the Demon Realm, feared even by Kaioshin, he came to an extremely pathetic end. Okay, first of all, today, we now know that he lived for way more than 300 years, but hey, the note never specifies how much longer, so we're gonna let that slide. It's also quite telling that the idea of demons possessing magic was in Toriyama's head already back in the mid-90s, as this basically states that his overall might is Cell plus magic, something that became very apparent thanks to Daima. Also, there is still that statement of the Demon Realm being opposite to the universe that Goku and Co. live in, and at this point, it doesn't seem to transcend realities, but what is important is surprisingly intact. Also, as it was stated in Daizenshu 4, Dabura was also responsible for recruitment of possible candidates to Babidi's organization, though, as we know, all of the candidates ended up being controlled by the wizard, and, he was quite a capable fighter. Obviously, he had an interesting trick in his stone spit. Also, he gave Gohan a bit of a run for his money, showing the biggest proof that the elder son of Goku had been slacking quite a bit. He was quite cool with his big sword and all. Also, even despite him being in control of Babidi, he wasn't fully sold on the whole Majin Buu business ultimately. Perhaps he remembered the whole mess that Kid Buu had caused within the Demon Realm, or just rightly realized that it would be hard to control the big pink blob despite its childlike nature. It was too unpredictable. Hard to say. In a way, Dabura is the very definition of a measuring pole character. He is meant to be a minion who is as strong as the last big bad, but he is a joke compared to the new one, Majin Buu. But if you think about it, he helps to measure not only the physical strength of the likes of Gohan or Buu, but also the magical prowess of Babidi. Knowing what we know about Demon Realms now makes you understand just how insanely potent Babidi's mind control and corruption was, and how, in comparison, Vegeta's will was. He was more of a functional character when he was introduced. We didn't get that much of his personality, Babidi, but the longer you think about it, the more you can appreciate and understand why he was there. And of course, he gets destroyed fairly quickly. That, of course, is part of the joke. But as it is the case with many Dragon Ball characters, his story doesn't end there, at least not completely. To be fair, one of the more interesting quirks related to the King of the Demons is related to, well, his death. Or rather, what has happened after his death. Him being sent to heaven. First of all, this adds fuel to our theory that the otherworld is not connected to the Demon Realm's state of affair, and Dabura became affected by their afterlife system only because he died within Universe 7, just like the way Future Trunks did, and how he ended up in the present one after being shot by Cell. And that for King Yama, this did not seem like a normal occurrence, and by dying, Dabura continued his humiliation train that started when Buu ended his life by turning him into a biscuit. Now, we can all agree that the results were hilarious, as the King of the Demons immediately befriended Videl, Chi-Chi, and Bulma, became a very pacifistic and serene individual, almost laughably so. For years, fans treated this as anime-only canon, but seeing this as part of Kakarot's continuity, in fact Dabura returns to life as a friendly sparring partner for Goku in the game, I am willing to suspect that this joke was Toriyama's doing, and that he at least considered Dabura's time in heaven as something that had actually happened. Which, hey, was rather therapeutic for the guy, showing that he is definitely less evil than Freeza. Can you imagine how mad the Emperor of the Universe would be about being placed there? Well, I mean, we don't need to. We kind of saw it with the teddy bears and him in a cocoon. This might be a proof that he had some redeeming qualities, and when you consider everything that we learn about the Demon Realm in Daima, Bulma is considered to be a worse ruler than Dabura was. Granted, for the last, give or take 300 years, he was the king in absentia, which meant that the margins were likely left alone and relatively unbothered, but still, considering the average lifespan of a demon, this was most likely just a mere little getaway, a little break, a droplet of water in a lake of time. I think that even though he wasn't a good ruler, he at least commanded some sort of fear, respect, intimidation, you know? Bulma, no, not so much. Dabura's proven to be pretty influential not only in the manga, movie, anime capacity, but also in the games, Universe and Online. Some of you already know why, as some of the most recurring characters over there are Toa, his sister, and Fu, his nephew. And one of Toa's agendas in the original Xenoverse was to avenge her brother, which gets reversed in the sequel in the post-game story, where he teams up with Demigra. He also gets some sort of expansion in Dragon Ball Heroes where he is given additional lore and forms, but needless to say, this is definitely a different continuity, or timeline you could say, to Daima, and other animated Dragon Ball media, so it isn't our biggest thing that we're interested in today. The point is, he is depicted as a schemer, but not without some good traits, like genuinely caring for Toa. And surprisingly, this relationship goes both ways, so this was genuine. Curiously, Daima shows us that he was more than okay taking his father down, mostly due to his own lust for power. But who knows? Maybe he also considered him to be a bad ruler. We obviously will never know. But from what we do know about Dabura, it does seem like he was noticeably worse than his successor. So Dabura maybe was an improvement after all if you stop to look at it, and also be making a great mistake if we hadn't mentioned it apparently. Toriyama really liked the design of the Demon King, as he incorporated some basic traits in both Lucifer from Sandland and Reynold from Koa. I mean, it is hard to blame the man. This is a really sick and memorable design, so if you want to use it, yeah, the design's so nice he used it thrice. And also be making a great mistake if we hadn't mentioned it apparently. Toriyama really liked the design of the Demon King, as he incorporated some basic traits in both Lucifer from Sandland and Reynold from Koa. Just like Dr. Giro, it'd be unfair to call him a forgotten character. Well, at least after the Fighters era, both of them finally made it over to the video game. Would we want him to make some sort of return? Really? No, we don't think we will. I do think that in the end, his peculiar situation is part of the joke, something that makes him stand out. If he were just a regular bad guy, I think he would just be rather ordinary, you know? So his scarcity helps his memorability. And while Dragon Ball loves to retread old paths, it keeps its villains a little bit more interesting. And honestly, Daima tickled us a little bit with some new stuff about the character, his lineage and where he comes from, so I consider in this regard Dabura to be a success. I wouldn't be mad if at some point we would have gotten a flashback between Gohan and Dabura to show how their dynamic actually worked in situ, considering that he was his vice king and the only thing we got is a single image. All in all, I think where Dabura is right now, it's fine the way it is. We're past the age of when we can think he's a forgotten character, and he doesn't really seem like he's an overused one either. He's probably more important than we give him credit for, but also not as overrepresented as Freeza. Granted, unlike Giro, he was never meant to be the main baddie. It seemed like his main role, other than a measuring pole, was being an elegant brawn to Barbady's noisy and shrieking brain. A good little double act, which Dragon Ball does a lot. And he does work in that role, and hey, Dragon Ball, it just shows that individuals that are important to the lore are not necessarily that important to our characters, and at the end of the day, the Dragon Team are the lenses which we are using to view this world. But yeah, let's be real, we enjoyed Dabura, and we hope that the future of Dragon Ball won't forget the Demon Realm, and that we will be getting some interesting tidbits about it for years to come, including more about the departed king. Also, Dabura cookies, they do look really nice. Apparently, they are a huge hit in Toki Toki City. I mean, it's hard to blame them. But anyway, that's all we've got to say on the matter, but what about you? Do you like Dabura? Do you think he deserved more, or are you just happy with what you got? Do you consider his purification to be canon? Do let us know in the comments below, and let's get this discussion going. And I will see you in the next video. Catch you later!